to some parents about the decision to vaccinate their kids, and while some are hesitant, others can't wait.
My wish was for vaccines, and it's come true. We're very excited.
This comes after Health Canada approved a COVID-19 shot for children ages 5 to 11. More on that. Plus,
important that we rise up, we stand up and push back against industry.
demonstrators take to the streets of Toronto in solidarity with protesters occupying a pipeline construction site in British Columbia. And
community members to come together and mourn and to remember and grieve our loved ones that we have lost.
And it's the Trans Day of Remembrance, honoring the lives lost to transphobia, hate crimes, and illness.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Shannon Martin. With COVID-19 vaccines for kids ready in a matter of days, some parents say they've got a tough decision to make. Others say it can't come soon enough. Dale Manukduk spent the day talking to families and health experts who offered advice to the undecided.
At the Toronto Eden Centre, kids whispered in Santa's ear what they want for Christmas.
I want a makeup set.
A PS5?
For some parents, the big item on their holiday wish list was checked off yesterday.
My wish was for vaccines, and it's come true. We're very excited.
Health Canada approved the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 shot for children ages 5 to 11. Over the last few weeks, children under 12 represent the highest fraction of COVID-19 cases.
Now, most kids don't get very sick with COVID, but they can. They can get the inflammatory syndromes, pneumonia, long COVID.
In Toronto, 20,000 appointments are available between November 25th and December 5th at city-run vaccination clinics.
The hours are going to be expanded to accommodate more people and more children.
The Ontario government says they'll begin vaccinating as soon as supply arrives. More than 2.9 million doses will be shipped to Canada by the end of the week, enough to provide a first dose for every eligible Canadian child.
I'm going to sign her up as soon as I can.
We're super excited for her to be vaccinated and actually be able to kind of move forward.
But not everyone is rushing to the front of the line, even if they're fully vaccinated themselves.
See how what data comes out of the States with 5-year-olds.
Dr. Akwatu Kenti says the decision is more difficult for parents of Black children because of implicit bias towards their parenting by others.
They have to feel that the decision is well informed. They have to be confident about the decision. And so there must be no sense of, I'm being pressured to make a decision.
Health Canada authorized a 2-dose regimen to be administered 3 weeks apart. However, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization is recommending an 8-week interval based on evidence it generates a more robust immune response. Health Canada said that clinical trials showed that the vaccine was 90.7% effective in preventing COVID-19 in children ages 5 to 11 and that no serious side effects were identified. As part of the approval, Health Canada will also require Pfizer-BioNTech to continue providing information on the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And some developing news this afternoon. An Ontario senator has died a week after leaving hospital where she'd been battling COVID-19 complications. Josée Faure-Nising was 56. She was fully vaccinated, but she suffered from an autoimmune problem affecting her lungs for more than 15 years. She called Sudbury home and was appointed to the Senate in 2018. She is survived by her husband and 2 children. Our province today reporting 728 new COVID-19 infections and 5 deaths. This is the 3rd day in a row that cases in Ontario surpassed 700. The 7-day average of daily infections continues to increase. Currently, there are 283 people being treated in hospital. Out of those, 215 patients are not fully vaccinated or their status is unknown. Well, nearly 89% of people in the province now have at least 1 dose of the vaccine. In Toronto, vaccination clinics are running as part of Vax the Holidays. The idea to offer shots where people may be holiday shopping. Toronto Mayor John Tory was at a clinic outside a mall in Etobicoke. He said that while vaccination rates have been slowly rising, there's still more that needs to be done to reach the city's target.
We need 138,000 people to come out to get vaccinated with their second dose so that we can have the 90% fully vaccinated with 2 doses.
Tory also took some time to thank those who helped achieve this week's milestone of 5 million COVID vaccine doses administered in the city. 85% of eligible residents in Toronto are now fully vaccinated. For the second day in a row, a show of solidarity here in Toronto in the fight against a pipeline project in BC. Protesters here stopped traffic in hopes of sending a strong message. Our Dahlia Ashry was there.
Demonstrators started off on the corner of Bloor and Spadina in solidarity and against the Coastal GasLink pipeline in British Columbia.
We want for the RCMP and CGL to stop brutalizing Indigenous people, especially the Wet'suwet'en.
Eve Saint is a Wet'suwet'en land defender. She was arrested back in 2020.
So we had 100 RCMP come and invade the territory and rip me off my father's territory. My father is Chief Was.
As the day progressed, traffic came to a halt.
Dozens of protesters have blocked off the intersection here at Spadina and Bloor. As you can see behind me, there's a person who's climbed up to the top of that tripod and plenty of people who are chanting and waving their flags. It's all in solidarity with protesters who are occupying a pipeline construction in British Columbia.
RCMP says it arrested 29 people in the northwest coast of BC over the past 2 days, including 2 who identified as journalists, clearing a road leading to the pipeline project. The company has signed deals with elected Indigenous leadership, but hereditary chiefs say they have not consented to the project. Mounties have raided the Wet'suwet'en territory 3 times in the past few years because of the conflict with CGL. Crystal St. Clair is a local Indigenous rights activist.
All my life as an Indigenous person, I've been standing up against systemic oppression.
She says the pipeline doesn't have consent to be on that land.
If we are consulted and we say that no is the answer, it has to be respected. It's the Indigenous people who live on those lands who are first impacted by climate change as well as the environment around it. The water gets poisoned, the impacts are huge.
This afternoon's protest comes 1 day after demonstrators made their way inside the RBC building on Friday, hoping to send a message to companies who fund and own the Coastal GasLink pipeline project in BC. In an online statement, Coastal GasLink confirmed that supplies have been reaching the 2 worker camps that were previously cut off. The company called the steps taken by the RCMP unfortunate, but necessary to restore access to bring supplies, including food and water, to their employees and contractors. Local climate activists like Brian Champ are also standing in solidarity with the Indigenous people.
We need to phase out fossil fuels, but that's connected to respecting Indigenous sovereignty.
Demonstrators say protests will continue until Indigenous land rights are respected. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police tonight searching for a man after a fire sparked under a pedestrian bridge downtown. The first calls came in around 8 last night about a fire at an encampment. The fire marshal investigated through the day and are now calling it an arson. You can see the footage there from last night. The case has now been turned over to police. There is security footage and it shows a man approaching the bridge. You can see there. Police say some kind of material was then set on fire. The man is described as having a thin build and dark-colored hair. He was wearing a long black jacket, black pants, and carrying a dark backpack. The bridge remains closed at this hour. Some headaches if you're hoping to take GO Transit this weekend. Major track upgrades are underway. Here's what you need to know. Along the Barrie Line, some trains are not stopping at stations between Allendale Waterfront and Bradford GO. Regular service on that Barrie Line will pick up tomorrow. And along the Lakeshore West GO line, trains are not running between Oakville and Union Station, except for a few scheduled trains that will run just for Leafs fans heading to the game and home tonight. It is Trans Day of Remembrance, a chance to honor lives lost.
Celebrates Transgender Day of Remembrance to honor trans folks, mostly Black trans women who've lost their lives from transphobia and violence.
When we come together, we are stronger and more resilient, and we get the hope and the courage to continue on for another day.
The Toronto event was organized by the 519, a community center near Church and Wellesley. It featured the Circle of Cedar singers, speakers, and community performances. There was also a moment of silence to honor those who've lost their lives to transphobia, hate crimes, and illnesses. To BC now, where recovery efforts continue. While the extreme weather has somewhat subsided, a state of emergency remains in effect, and thousands are still under evacuation orders. Katie Nicholson is there.
As waters recede, the full scope of the mess they left behind. Floodwater came through this blueberry farm with such force, it smashed and entwined detritus into the shrubbery. Everything from a porch to a crate, compelling volunteers to help with the cleanup.
Seeing the aftermath of it, water's strong, and now we know.
Hoping to avoid more damage like this, today the frantic effort continues to shore up the Sumas Dike ahead of next week's rain.
And we believe that we are already greater than 50% done on the repairs to the larger breach.
Last week's weather wasn't just catastrophic, it was fatal. The death toll from Monday's landslide near Lillooet, now officially at 4. A 5th person is still missing. In Merritt, where the entire town was evacuated, a team of inspectors is on the ground surveying damage to homes, giving them green, yellow, or red ratings.
Everyone will want to be in a green rating, but unfortunately and tragically, some people will find that their homes either need more work or may not be salvageable.
Some vital roadways have reopened, but it's for essential and cautious travel only, creating long lineups.
It's about ensuring that our emergency vehicles and supply chain vehicles and commercial vehicles can continue to get through to where they're needed.
14,000 are still out of their homes. Nearly 1,000 farms are on evacuation orders. And with more rain in the forecast and still so much water down, even more reinforcements have arrived for the battle ahead. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Abbotsford.
Sophia Cambalia is here from the Weather Network with our first look at the forecast. And I know some messy weather was kind of expected to be heading our way.
Yeah, Monday is going to be a day that we actually have concerns of whiteout conditions and measurable shoveling snow for some of the snow belt regions. It's a calm weekend by comparison. It was a little chilly today. Clouds moved in after a little bit of sunshine, but we're sitting around 5-6 with a few showers moving through the southwest right now. Dress for what feels like too if you're heading out to the big Leafs game downtown this evening and into the overnight. We're at the freezing mark with maybe a few passing showers coming through, but they'll be done in a blink of an eye, and they're the least of our worries. It's the lunchtime rain that begins Sunday afternoon. You might squeak out a fairly decent but cloudy morning, and then the rain stays constant afternoon, evening, and into the overnight, where after the passing of this cold front, we could get into a little bit of colder air, maybe even see a bit of mixing. But it's the really cool air that floods in from the north on Monday that's going to mean sizable, measurable shoveling snow for any of the snowbelt regions into Cottage Country, Barrie, Vaughan, even into Orillia, into southwestern Ontario and the Huron and Georgian shores as well, along with really gusty winds. And for everybody else that maybe won't see as many flakes flying, you'll definitely feel the cold Monday into Tuesday. What feels like -2 on Monday, it continues into Tuesday. And I'll tell you about in the long range when we can finally see a little bit of more of the seasonal and warmer values come back. Shannon?
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
See you in a bit.
Late fees at the library have been temporarily paused during the pandemic. Now they could be scrapped altogether. The Toronto Public Library intends to stop charging teens and adults for overdue books. As Ryan Patrick Jones reports, it wants City Council to cover the cost.
Nargiz Sabzavari started studying at the Toronto Reference Library shortly after she arrived in Canada from Iran in 2018. Like many library users, she once incurred a fee after returning a book late.
I had so much thing in my head, that's why I forgot to bring it back, my book, on time.
The late fee seems small, at 35 cents per day, but once it grows to $30, a user's card is blocked and privileges are suspended. The worry had Sabzavari shaken.
When I wanted to, for example, update my library card. I always I was worried.
It's situations like this the Toronto Public Library wants to avoid. The library permanently removed overdue fees for kids earlier this year. It now wants to do the same for teens and adults. Doing so would require $1.4 million from the city for lost revenue.
We will still charge customers for materials that are not returned or damaged or lost. So it's just for the late fees we will not be charging.
Hundreds of public libraries across Canada have scrapped late fees in recent years. Mitchell says research shows not only are the fines ineffective, but they drive people away.
We're hoping for more visitors to the library and more patrons that will take our materials and use us, who have been kind of afraid to come in if they have charges on their account.
This Scarborough councillor supports getting rid of fines.
We're not running the Toronto Public Library on fines. The fines that we collect, it's about $1.5 million, $1.4 million, and works out to about 1% of our budget.
As for Sab Zavari, she says removing fees would help newcomers like her.
I think it caused a good relationship between the public library and the newcomer, specific the people. I think it's so helpful.
Council votes on the library's budget in February. Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
In the U.S., anger erupted overnight after a teenager was acquitted in the shooting deaths of 2 people. Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty on a number of charges, sparking protests in several states. Chris Reyes has more.
A night of anger on the streets all over the U.S. after the Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty verdict. Protests in Portland, Oakland, New York, and outside the courthouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin. In Kenosha, Justin Blake was front and center at a rally calling on justice for his nephew, Jacob Blake. The protests in August 2020, where Rittenhouse shot 3 men, killing 2 of them, was in response to the shooting of Jacob Blake by a white police officer.
So not only are we standing here today letting you know we're not asking, we're demanding that Jacob Blake's case be reopened.
The girlfriend of Anthony Huber, one of the men killed by Rittenhouse, said the verdict tells her that no one is responsible for her boyfriend's death.
I just want the city of Kenosha to understand, KPD to understand, that nobody here is ever going to stop.
Come on.
Nobody here is ever going to stop attempting to expose the flaws in this system.
Throughout the trial, the 18-year-old was portrayed by some as a vigilante, by others as a hero defending the town. After the verdict, former President Donald Trump issued a statement applauding the jury's decision and congratulating Rittenhouse. Bernice King, the youngest daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., also weighed in on the verdict. She wrote, "Gun violence and vigilantism, often laced with racism and pardoned when the vigilante is white, are alive and devastating in our country." Next week, another high-profile trial is expected to reach a verdict in the shooting death of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. Arbery was jogging in a neighborhood in Georgia when he was shot dead. 3 white men have been charged, all claim self-defense.
The stand your ground mentality that's ongoing in America has to be curtailed somehow to allow for peaceful protests and demonstrations without the interference of individuals coming in and then using self-defense as a weapon against protesters.
A spokesperson for Rittenhouse and his family say they are now in an undisclosed location. They have not spoken publicly since the verdict. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
It's Hamilton Day, a one-day shopping event meant to support local and small business. It all started back in 1931 when the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce held its first ever event. Back then, it was designed to give the local economy and members of the community a much-needed boost during the Great Depression of the 1930s. Now, 90 years later, organizers are hoping for much of the same thing.
A lot of them were hit hard. It took a lot. If you didn't adapt, you had a lot of problems. But with the curbside pickup and online ordering and finding ways to survive, a lot of them are really struggling, but finding ways to make it through.
A variety of local businesses took part, from stores to restaurants, personal services, gyms, and fitness studios, and local artists.
months was hard on families, hard on small businesses, and Brampton has a large percentage of essential workers. We were probably one of the communities hit hardest in Canada. We're in a position where we can have phenomenal events like this again. And so for me to look out and see people enjoying the holiday season, it's just a beautiful thing.
Brampton is brightening up the holiday season with a winter festival of lights. The tree lighting ceremony took place last night with some dancing, musical performances, and a very special guest, Santa, of course. The Downtown Walk Through Lights Festival is running until tomorrow night. And more fun tonight, Sophia, in Mississauga for its holiday festivities. That's at 7:45 at Celebration Square, so hopefully it'll be nice for people there.
Yeah, could see a passing shower, but sitting around 5-6 degrees right now in the Mississauga area near Pearson there. But if there is a passing shower for any of you attending, it will be very quick over on the blink of an eye. Really nice seasonal temperatures when you think about it. Those passing showers will continue, though, into the overnight. And then it's the snow event that we alluded to earlier that we'll be talking about Monday into Tuesday. Now, this is a 5 centimeters-ish for anybody north of the 401 into the traditional snowbelt regions north and west of the city, especially into cottage country and on the Huron shores. But for everybody else, we actually could see a bit of mixing Sunday overnight after the rain on Sunday and this passage of this cold front and that cooler air in behind. It's this lake effect, though, that's really going to enhance any of that 5 centimeters to a widespread, maybe 10 to 15 for some of those snowbelt regions. It's going to be with some meandering winds, so it's going to be a little bit more widespread, cut down on some of the excessive snowfall totals. But for some of you, especially north and west of the city, this will mean Sunday night into Tuesday, some shoveling for you. Let's go through the temperatures day by day. Seasonal and rain for your Sunday afternoon high, and then it's Monday and Tuesday that you're really going to feel that cooler polar Arctic air, as we talked about a few minutes ago, feeling like -2, like -5 throughout the day on Monday. So you definitely want to dress the kids warm for school for the first half of the week. That includes Tuesday as well. It's these chunks of really cool polar Arctic air. I'll show you in just a minute. For some of you, that includes cold and snow. Big pattern change from all the warmth that we saw in October. It won't be until Wednesday when that ridge comes back in and we're back up to seasonal and a bit of dry conditions so we can breathe that sigh of relief. But a reminder, these are a few days where snow tires may be necessary for some.
A little of everything, it seems.
Yeah, not a lot of snow south of the 401, but you may see a few flakes fly.
Okay, thanks so much, Sophia. That is our show for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's a little bit more from the Festival of Lights in Brampton.